Hi, everyone. I'm Danette, and I am here today with a very special guest. Her name is JessicaBrodkin. I met her doing stand-up, and she has one of the best laughs out there. And Jessica also does Reiki. So she's actually performed Reiki on me. So today we're gonna just talk about spirituality, wellness, and of course, comedy. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you for having me.
Did I pronounce your last name correct?
Perfect.
Okay.
Good job.
I'm always like scared that I'm messing up people's names.
I understand.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about, this is going to be really juicy because we're juicy women. Let's get into it. So how have you been doing during this pandemic? Like, how are you taking care of yourself?
I've upped the self-care because I had to, and also I had the time. So, I mean, this pandemic's been so long that I feel like it's changed. Like in the beginning, I was working out more, and then I reopened in July. So things have been, and then we had open stand-up shows, and then the stand-up shows closed. So it's like it's been a whole thing. But I guess lately, what I do is I meditate, take baths, journal, play music, FaceTime with people. So I try to do that in order to.
You look amazing, by the way. Like, you look like you're in a really good place.
I don't know, maybe it's the ring light. I don't know.
Well, you look good. So, are you still, it's January. Are you still performing stand-up outside?
I'm not. I'm just doing Zoom right now. I don't like being outside when it's 30 degrees.
I know. Yeah.
How about you? Are you doing stand-up outside or?
No, my last live stand-up show was in November. So other than that, I've been doing Zoom shows, which is just as good. I mean, it's obviously not the same, but at least I get to like talk to people and like, tell jokes and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Same. Are you still practicing Reiki? So let me just share with people.
Sure.
So I took in 2013, I became Reiki 1 certified. And then I also started doing stand-up. No, 2014, I started doing stand-up. And so I had to decide if I wanted to do stand-up or Reiki. Like, I felt like I couldn't do both because they were so different. Like in comedy, you have to be like just raw and like just really put yourself out there. And then with Reiki, I felt like you have to be very holistic and loving and caring and like have this good juicy energy. And I just thought I couldn't do both. So I just kind of practiced the Reiki for myself and I pursued stand-up. And then I met Jessica, who not only has an amazing laugh, but I found out she does Reiki like full time, right? Like you're a Reiki, are you a master yet?
Yeah.
You're a Reiki master.
Yeah.
So Jessica actually did Reiki on me and it was phenomenal. Like I felt like a new woman and I was like, namaste, sister.
I'm so happy.
And then I did another session with her. So tell us about Reiki, like how you started doing Reiki, like why, and how do you balance doing stand-up, which is to me very like, aggressive or assertive, and then like the Reiki is more like flowy and feminine, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Stand-up is a very there's yin and yang. I've heard people say that stand-up is very yang, which is more masculine energy of the arts. But it really and that Reiki is very yin. But so I feel like they're the anyway, I feel like they're kind of I feel like they balance me in a way.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
But you asked me, how did I get into Reiki, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I got into Reiki.
Did you do stand-up first and then Reiki, or Reiki and then stand-up?
Great question. So I received Reiki the first time 13 years ago. And I began stand-up before I began doing Reiki. I did not intend to do Reiki on people. That really like happened. It fell into my lap. It was a big, weird spiritual awakening. But 13 years ago, I had migraines and I was super sick and I would pass out from migraines and vertigo. And I had all this crazy physical illness. And then I passed out at a friend's house and I woke up and my migraine was gone, and he had his hands over me. My friend had his hands waving above my body. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm doing Reiki. And I had no idea what it was, but I felt so much better. And then I started going to Reiki periodically, and my migraines went away. And then I started stand up 2 years later. And I had another sort of physical mental breakdown around 9 years ago. And I did everything I could to get out of it. So I went to therapy, I went to Reiki, I went to acupuncture, I did yoga, I meditated, I did everything I could possibly do to sort of put Humpty Dumpty back together again in terms of my mental health and my physical health. And I was living in Virginia at the time, and I like lived near a lake, and I would go hiking on the lake. It was like a whole thing.
Was it Virginia that did it?
It's a great question. I don't think it was Virginia. It was it was a whole lot of issues that built up in my system. And then my sister has a chronic illness, and she lives in Miami or north of Miami, and I sent my Reiki master to work on her to help her, and he wasn't able to. And
Oh, wow.
and I found out that I was.
That's such a blessing.
And so I just found, and I was doing distance, and I started practicing on my friends and my family. And then I was part of like this women's group, and I just started working on everyone there. And then a business just like really just happened.
Yeah.
It popped out of nowhere.
That's beautiful.
Thanks. It was actually, it sounds beautiful, like as I summarize it, but it was really
as you tie it together.
Yeah, like I lost my husband. Like I didn't lose him. We just got divorced. So I lost my husband in the process of becoming a Reiki master.
What was that by coincidence, or was he like this Reiki
really He was really against it.
Oh, because what's your background? You're religious. I'm assuming it's because of religious beliefs.
It was from a fundamentalist Christian family.
Okay.
And I was raised Jewish, but like not very religious. So we have different. But it was his religious background that made it not okay. And so that was a big reason why our marriage ended. It was one of the many reasons, but yeah.
Okay. It wasn't the reason. It was one of many.
It was a big reason. I couldn't really be myself and be with him, but it wasn't the only reason, but it was a big one.
Yeah, there was like 3 questions that just popped into my head. Like the first one was, how did you explain it to him? Because I find I'm only Reiki 2 certified, and I only practice on myself. I think I've practiced like on a handful of people, but I never know how to explain what I'm doing. Like I don't so how did you explain it to him, and how did, we'll start there.
So to disclose more, because there's always more to the story, is that I became I started to, when I had my breakdown in my like around 9 years ago, I started seeing spirits. And it was very scary for me. I thought I was like schizophrenic. I didn't know what was wrong with me. It was like a natural medium situation. Yeah. And I can see and hear from my guides. So if someone doesn't know, it's like, but I'm not like a consistent medium. So I'm not like someone who wants to like go and talk to dead people for a living, although I thought about it. But I started
and OnlyFans for like
OnlyFans for dead people. That's hilarious. I love the idea of a spiritual OnlyFans. It's so funny. But yeah, that was a part of it. So spirits came and were like, you should work on your sister. This is how you do it.
Wow.
And I learned how to do it. And then eventually I got the official certifications, but the certifications came later. The official certifications. I had like downloads of this is how you do it. And I did it and it worked. And I just got better over time in terms of practice and skill.
How's your sister?
She's better. She still, is working on stuff, but she was my motivation for doing Reiki.
That's cool. And do you think that the seeing the apparitions and the people, like the ghosts, was that do you think it's because Reiki opened up that door? Because I think that's a concern of many people. When I offer to do Reiki on them, they're like, where's this energy coming from? Like, what is it going to open?
They're very, some people are concerned about it. Not by the time people come to me, they're not. But I think that I mean, Reiki really comes from, I mean, you know, like universal energy. It comes from source. It's not really, Reiki is a little bit more based on Buddhism. So it's more Zen and Shinto. And so it's a combination of things, but it's really not from like negative, negative spirits, negative
Entities.
sources.
Yeah.
That ability like runs in my family and I didn't know before.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I don't know.
What meaning like you're spiritually connected
Yeah,
to
yeah.
divine.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know that there are people in my family who would do that or could do that, and that some of my relatives had healing abilities, like on my mom's side, that I found out about later. So I've been doing this as a profession for 6 years.
Cool.
Great is so long. It feels like so long. Um, but the process of the process of being a Reiki healer, going through the training, having clients, all of that has been its own awakening. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? There's like a spiritual awakening that makes you a healer, and then there's training, and then I feel like there's so many different ways to get to higher consciousness, if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're sharing your journey.
This is my journey.
Yeah.
This is one of my many journeys. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is part of my journey. Um, did I answer all of your questions? I think you had a few questions at
You
once.
did.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably picking up on the 10 other questions I have.
I feel like there are lots of questions. I'm here. I'm ready.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
Because
great.
it's very exciting. Like I just started. So I got into an accident in 2017,
Uh-huh.
and it was really I went to you right after that accident. It was with the police officers and like being whatever, like assaulted. And I remember I went to you for Reiki, and I felt like an energy lift out of me. So I
Yeah.
felt like I was also taking care of. I felt like I was doing everything I could do to put myself together again, like mentally, physically,
Yeah.
spiritually. But what I didn't realize is that there was still some stuff stuck in me. Like there was still. So most recently, I've been during this pandemic, I started to experience PTSD, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I went to multiple doctors, and finally someone was like, you need to go to a chiropractor because your body's spasming, like you're having body spasms. And I was like, what? Like, I don't need this in my life. But anyway, I started to practice I started to do the chiropractor. Like she
Yeah.
started to put like snap me back into place. But I
Yeah.
was like, I do Reiki. Let me help heal myself faster. So I
Yeah.
started to do Reiki on myself. And I swear, like the very next day, I feel better. I'm like, this works.
No, it
Like,
works. I Reiki myself. I
yeah.
know it's, yeah, I
But
do.
I think it's interesting how like every human being is walking around with like the ability to heal their own bodies, like stay connect to like a higher source. And it takes a lot of work and practice, but it could be done. I think it's fascinating. Um, and yeah, I think I was just sharing to say like we can heal ourselves, and if we don't have the time to do it, we can find a person like you, like a practitioner, that can do it for us, that can help us.
Yeah.
But then people are very pessimistic because it just seems too good to be true. Like you saying that you lost your migraines went away and then you started to heal yourself, that seems like impossible.
Right. I mean, I'm sorry you had PTSD. I also have had PTSD forever. I had it forever, and it finally went away. But I worked really, really hard to get rid of PTSD. It's PTSD, and of course there are different like levels and things. But energy work is really good for PTSD. Acupuncture is really good for PTSD. Chiropractors can be good for PTSD depending on the one that you have. You know.
Yeah. Well, the chiropractor, I found out that I had a lot of like I had what I can share is that out of the many things, I had like two herniated discs, which I was like, that's what? That sounds crazy. Because I always hear those words, like even PTSD, I hear people have it. Like I never think it's going to be me. So to even have PTSD is like far out for me. And then the chiropractor told me I had 2 herniated discs. So I thought that was the end of it. But she told me that they can pop back into place. Like you can heal your spine. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. So
That's a
yeah.
big deal.
It is a big deal because the doctor that read my MRI, she basically told me this is what's wrong with you. Watch out for bad weather. If you're in too much pain, we have drugs that can make you feel better. Okay, and that was it. Like she hung up the phone on me, and I was like, that I'm gonna just live with this pain. Like this is incredulous. Like I can't believe it. But like you, I think there's like that spirit in us that's like, we're gonna fix this. Like we can heal ourselves. We're not gonna like take this laying down.
Yeah.
So I started, doing the Reiki, the chiropractor. I'm doing like a lot of self-healing and it's working. Do you find because you do what you do, stand-up wise and Reiki wise, well, we'll stay with Reiki, but do you ever find yourself offering advice or trying to like fix people?
Yeah, I think I do. And I think you mean like outside of sessions?
Yeah, like if you're talking to another stand-up, or if you're talking to like your neighbor and like they start telling you they have migraines or they have diabetes or like they have something like that's not
Right.
well with them, like do you ever want to be like, hey, like drink some more green tea or come in for a session, like
I
unsolicited advice?
I try not to anymore. So because I think that for me, I did it so much. I overdid that, and I'd like to have more balanced relationships and not fall into codependency.
Okay.
Like I don't want to feel um like people know what I do, and if they want a session, they can come in, it's fine. But I try to let people sometimes people like outside of sessions, like people just in life, they just want to be heard, and just listening to somebody just makes them feel so much better.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But I don't want to like play therapist. I don't want to um
But were you always that clear with your boundaries, or
no,
did
no,
that take time? Okay.
absolutely not. I think not even close. It's boundaries are still like it's not a new thing, but they're kind of a new thing in terms of my um under like really understanding what codependency is, really understanding what clear boundaries are. I think healing as many people as I do, I have had to be clear with my boundaries, because I just like I can't be in one-sided relationships where I'm taking care of somebody. I need something that's more balanced, or I need something that's more sort of fun and not like codependency. In my understanding is that you feel the person feels like they have to give to someone else, and they have to help someone else in order to be deserving of love or be deserving of the connection. And I definitely was like that before. So it
Mhm.
was definitely a classic wounded healer, like textbook.
Mm,
Like,
interesting.
and I think that's why the process of being a Reiki healer has been such a um experience of expanded consciousness, if that
Just
makes any sense.
just throw that word out there.
Expanded consciousness.
Come on, people. Yeah. Get on board. Yeah. Do you know Dr. Joe Dispenza?
I mean, yes, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
not personally, right?
Right. I just
And
got into him and I'm like, oh my God, he's like, I've seen his work before, but I
yeah,
would never pay attention and I never bothered to like let it come in. And now because I had the herniated discs that are healing, by the way, um,
I used to have one in my neck. And
it's crazy
it was crazy, yeah.
because, like I hear people talking about like even like I've been fortunate that I don't get migraines, but when I do get them, I'm like, oh my God, like how do people live with this? Or
Right.
when I was experiencing leg pains because I had back trouble, like all these ailments that start to hit, I'm like, oh my God, like how do people, no wonder people are cranky and some people are assholes. They're like walking around with so much physical pain.
Yeah, and then there are people walking around with emotional pain, and so or both.
Right. I forget about that. All right.
I didn't know that you wanted to be a practitioner and that you felt like you had to choose between Reiki and stand-up.
You know, it's interesting when you said the codependency thing, because I'm like, oh shit, I may still have that. Because I love and I'm aware of ego. I love making people feel better. It makes me feel good, like
Yeah.
instantly, without like, you don't have to recognize me. You don't have to like say, Danette, like fix me, or Danette gave me a great session. Just knowing that I made you, like, you now feel better in the world makes me happy. And I feel like that's such a tender, soft, kind thing, right? But then I go on stage and I'm being like sarcastic and I'm being catty and I'm being like, and I just thought to myself, like, if I treat a patient and then they come to see a show, are they going to be disappointed in me because like here's this like 360 version of me, and is that going to like I think too much, I analyze too much, and I was just like, let me just focus on stand up and being funny and finding my words.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had clients come to shows and
Tell me
I've
about that.
I've grappled with this question. For me, my question comes to my Instagram because I don't really post. And it's like, I don't post because I don't know if I should post my jokes or the healing. And I mean, so that's like a whole thing. You know what I mean?
I
And,
do.
and so, but what I guess keeps coming up for me. So one thing is that therapists don't allow, they will not see their clients in anything else. So if you were a therapist and you did stand up, you would not, your clients could never see you do stand up. It would not be permitted to. But the other thing that's interesting to me is, have you heard of, I'm sure you have, shadow integration?
I've heard of shadow integration, but I don't know what that means.
So the shadow is kind of, the whole idea is that everybody is positive and negative, light and dark, or there's no negativity in the darkness. Or let's say you might perceive being sarcastic or catty on stage using your words as dark, and that healing people is light. And so the thing is, like, can we integrate both sides of you into one person?
Right.
And can your clients hold space for the light and the dark? Can they see that you, because one thing that I was reading this book called Spirit Hacks, written by the shaman, who I really resonate with the things that he said with that in the book. But one of them is that sometimes people put their healers on a pedestal because they're like, oh, you made me feel so much better, and then that's a transference that goes on to you. Well, it's like, oh, it's not me, right? It's just Reiki, it's just the energy, it's just whatever this technique is. It doesn't, am I making sense? Yeah.
No, I'm following you. I'm following you.
And so one other thing is like important for our clients, for clients or the people that we heal, not to like idolize us, and not to, because sometimes I would even set boundaries with the client, and then the client would get very upset because they're like, well, you're not supposed to set boundaries, you're my loving space. And it's like, well, we have to, you know what I mean? There needs to, it's a whole thing.
How did you know that your that particular client wanted more from you, or that you had to set that, like, how you had to set a boundary with?
It's like, it's blowing up my phone all the time, and I'm like, I can't.
Okay.
That's an example. Someone's blowing up my phone all the time, and I'm like, I can't. Can you just text me on my, or message me on my business number? Can you message me on email and then book?
Right.
You know, can we like just do it that way? And so, some people don't take, or some people listen. Some people listen to it. They're like, hey, I don't want to communicate over text anymore. Can we just communicate over email or something like that? Simple as that.
Yeah. That just reminded me of a comedian. He texts me at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I text him back like 15 minutes later. I was like, if this is not an emergency, please text me during business hours. Right? Because it's like, what are you doing texting me at 3 o'clock in the morning? No, I don't think so, buddy,
Look at, all right, you're all set. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not like saying that, um, I'm just, I don't know, I'm just thinking of alternative ways to look at doing Reiki and doing stand up at the same time, and the challenges that poses. And I
No,
actually had a girl, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go.
I had a girl write to me, who I need to do a Zoom with, but she went to she slid through the DMs, but and she was just like, hey, I'm a stand-up and I'm a Reiki healer.
Oh, wow.
Newer at both, but I'd love to talk to you. And so it's kind of like amazing. And she was like, I was so excited to find you and feel
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, because what you're doing is pretty phenomenal in the sense that, you know, stand up it is what it is. It's super, I find it to be assertive, aggressive. It's
yeah,
very masculine, which is nice. You know, it's
right.
there's all these good qualities, but they're very like intense. And then you have Reiki, and that's not intense. And like you said earlier, how if you're treating a client,
Yeah.
they should not know about the stand-up, but you should not integrate them into other parts of what you do. But
Well,
I
therapists wouldn't do that. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying therapists wouldn't do that. Like my clients came to my shows.
is it because you invited them or because they knew you were a stand-up? How did that come about?
Because I mean, just put it on Instagram on my
Okay.
stories. They were like,
Yeah.
"I'll come to your show." Or when I used to do the Moonule, which you did with Sarah Armour
Yeah.
at Caroline's, um, that was they went there because that was kind of like a both thing. Because I
Yeah.
felt like it was spiritual and it was comedy, so I felt like it was appropriate to invite them. So
I
I did. So basically, yes, I invited them.
Yeah. I think that for me, I just, you know, like I was setting up my shop for comedy. It was like, you know, I was setting up my Facebook page, like Danette Comedy, like look how much fun and silly I am. And then like my Instagram, like here are all the freaking shows I'm on, and these are all the people. So that was a lot. That was happening, right? And then
Yeah.
I remember like posting pictures of me at bars. It's dark, they're seedy.
Right.
And then it was kind of like what you were saying about Instagram. It's like, if I had it up to me, I would post like inspirational posts and like, let's all elevate to the next level. And then I thought, I didn't, at the time, just didn't know how to merge the two. It's just
I
like,
don't know how.
it's a lot. And I know that we can separate them because we're doing it. But I
Right.
find like for people, I find like audiences need to be led. You know, a lot of the times
Yeah.
I'll even talk about stuff on stand up that I'm like, people will get it. And it's like, no, they need you to like dumb it down for them or like keep it simple. And yeah, so
I,
I'm okay with not practicing Reiki.
you're
I did it on my ex-boyfriend and he's like, what is this?
okay.
And I was like, but do you feel better? He's like, I feel sleepy. I'm like, good, it's working. But yeah, I find it hard to explain to people where the energy comes from, but it works. I'm a believer.
I I think that this is something I think about a lot, and maybe you do too, is like what message do you want? I mean, maybe you know exactly what message do you want to put out in the world? What, you know what I mean? And what avenue that you want to do that through, which I mean, this is obviously a podcast is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
And the time sort of, because in a set you have what, like 10 minutes or whatever, like generally our sets are not long in the city. So it's like, do we have the time to explain ourselves and do all the punches in, however many minutes we have? But here we have we have our time.
It's limitless. Somebody just invited me to do a podcast and I was like so excited, and then he sent me the calendar invite for like 3 hours. I'm like, what? I'm like, who the hell wants to hear us talk for 3 hours? But but it was for like tech reasons. So let me ask you a few more questions. Let's turn it into comedy.
Okay.
What are 3 things you love about stand-up?
I love the community. I love the people that I've met who have become my friends. I love going to a show and seeing people's faces that I know and feeling like we're not alone. So I like the community aspect. I like that we all have this thing that we love that we do together.
It is pretty special, especially now with the pandemic. There's like people that I thought did not like me, and they're like, Danette. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, I'll take that love.
Yeah.
And so then what are some things that you absolutely could do
Oh, you
without?
said three. I gave
Oh,
you
I'm
just
sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm just being anal. Two is I love I love making people laugh. The feeling of hearing the laughter, the actual is amazing. I love the craft of doing it. I love the whole creating a joke, creating a set, having an idea, watching it execute, watching a new joke work. And I like that you're never done. I like that you can do stand up forever. You can't.
That's on your like part. Okay.
I like that I think real art is never complete.
That's true. Yeah.
Art is a lifestyle, it's a life choice. It's not like, I mean, sure, like, yeah, you can finish a book, you can finish an album, you can make it finite, but even when you're done with one book or one album, you're always a writer, you're always a comic, you're just always, there's always more to do. And I love that there's always more to do. When I would watch these girls on 90 Day Fiance, my favorite reality show, and they're in America and they're like, I'm bored, there's nothing to do. I'm like, I've never been bored. I'm never bored. I can write for lifetimes. I can play music for lifetimes.
It's true.
How
Yeah.
are you bored?
Yeah.
Never.
That's, I think somebody recently said that on Instagram about them being bored, and I had the same reaction as you did. And then about a week later, I was bored, and I was like, what? And I think what happened was that I had done everything, and I think what I needed was just to like a face to face with someone, like I think I was isolated for like 3 days. So when I was experiencing that boredom, I think it was like a Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, what the fuck? I don't have, yeah, and I got bored. But yeah, it's interesting.
So what are the other questions that was
Oh,
it?
the other question was like, what are the 3 things that you rather not deal with in stand up, that you, if you can just write it off as not part of the experience, or you would deal less with?
I think that the industry is designed to take advantage of comics financially. So a lot of places that are closing, they really take the lion's share. Or let's say there's a place that never paid their comics, but I know people who knew their books and they were totally able to afford to do that. So I think there's a real exploitation of artists in stand-up in New York City specifically. I got paid more in DC, but like there's so many comics, there's so many people willing to do it for free that I think a lot of people are being exploited.
Yeah.
So that really bothers me. What else bothers me? That's probably the main thing.
What about all the dick jokes?
The dick jokes. I feel like, so when I started a long time ago, and when I started I started in DC, I was like there weren't that many women. There were like 5 women total. And now in New York, there's so many more women, and there's so many women who run shows that it's a really different experience. But there were definitely dudes who were trying to exchange sex for stage time, or like the sexual harassment that would go on. That was probably my least favorite. I don't
Yeah.
feel like I experience that as much now as I used to.
And probably because you just know better. You probably just give off a vibe that's like, nope, don't even play, like, don't even come at me.
Yeah, don't even play me.
Yeah.
But I think that yeah, I think it's hard for me to ask for things. So it's not really a stand-up thing. It's more of a me thing. I don't like asking for spots. I don't like I think it's such a self-starter thing that nowadays being a comic means you have to do so many things. You have to do podcasts, so you have to tweet, you have to write, you have to do stand-up, you have to do social media. It's just like it feels like there are 4 jobs within the one job of being a comic. And I think
Yeah.
that that's overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really hard. I don't think that's how it was before, or what's your TikTok following? And it's just like, it's just
Well, I think what's interesting is that a lot of the older comics that have been in this for like 20, 30 years will say, oh, like it's so much easier for a new beginner now because you have all these different avenues, which is true. But then you have what you just said, which is like, there's just so much. So to like the quality is probably not as high, and the consistency is probably like scattered more.
There's a lot of noise. You have to make it, you have more tools, but you have to make it through the noise. In their day, you would get a Letterman set and then you would have a career. Now you get a TV set nobody knows or nobody cares. It doesn't
Right.
anymore.
Yeah, like even on Twitter, there's some new comedians that have over like 10,000 followers, and like they've been on the stage like 3 times. But you
Right.
know, if an agent's looking to book someone, those are the people that they go to first, because technically they have 10,000 pairs of eyes on them. So
Right.
that's like psychological, and like that's where you need to get really strategic and be really business savvy.
Right.
It's very exhausting actually. Like with this, I'm really excited because I get to talk to you and I get to talk to other people. But I didn't realize that it's like, oh my God, now I have to edit down the video. I still haven't learned how to, I mean, I used to edit back in the day on Final Cut, so I know how to do it, but I have to learn how to do it for Zoom, and like it takes time, and then I want to put cards, and I'm like,
It's
it's
a
a
whole
lot.
thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
How long
Yeah.
have you been doing stand-up?
I mean, on and off for 10 years.
Okay.
So it's a long time, but I went through different phases and I actually stopped doing stand-up for like 2 years, maybe. Not fully, but like because of Reiki. I couldn't do both. And I thought maybe I could live without stand-up. And then I just kept being pulled back in over and over again.
I think I remember when I went to do a session with you, you had told me that you had taken like a 1-year hiatus, and I didn't even notice because I still felt you around the scene. Like you were still in the scene. So,
So I felt like I think I felt like one of the I guess challenges of my life is balancing Reiki with stand-up and balancing Reiki with art in general, or
yeah.
or what it means to be an artist and how to move forward and even what it means to be a healer and how to grow and move forward there. So it's just it feels like I don't know, because it's not like Reiki's a day job. Reiki's like another calling. So it's just like how do I balance these two?
Hmm. Well, you seem to be doing a really great job, I think, from the outside.
The outside, I'm glad it looks good.
It looks like you got it all figured out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way, but
Let's take a hair break. What do you do? Your hair is gorgeous. Like, what's your hair process like? Like, how many times a week do you wash it? What do you use? I know I'm gonna get people asking me this anyway. They'll be like, oh my God.
I don't wash my hair that often. Sometimes I wash sometimes I've definitely during the pandemic washed my hair once a week, or sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. So between 1 and 3 times. So
Okay, that seems average.
yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to wash your hair like every day.
You're not supposed to wash your hair that often. I use an argan oil product. So I use it's actually cheap. It's from CVS. It's from like the drugstore. So I use an argan oil product. So it's Hask argan oil for conditioner, and then I use Curls Botanical Goddess Gel. Ironically, it's called Goddess Gel. It has an orange label. Also,
It's
in the
working.
thank you. And then I used this thing called Curl Mix, which was on Shark Tank and one of Oprah's favorite things. So it's Curl Mix, the lavender moisturizing one.
So
So
this is what you put on your hair after you wash it?
first I wash it with the argan oil and I condition with the argan oil, and then the botanical gel and curl mix is afterwards.
Sure. Oh, because you said oil, so I thought that was something you applied after the wash, but the oil is actually the wash?
Yeah, it's the wash.
Oh, interesting.
So with my hair texture, it just took a long time to, and I'm still always like trying to figure out like what products make it too crunchy or too soft or the hold, and it's just like a whole thing. And then I use a big diffuser, which looks like a machine gun.
I've seen a diffuser before.
You've seen a diffuser before, yeah. So
Yeah.
diffuser,
So you use it all the time, the diffuser, or do you let it air? Like,
sometimes I let it air dry
okay.
if I'm like not going anywhere pandemic wise, but it is not fluffy.
Oh, it gets fluffy. I know. I love fluffy hair though, but yeah, people get intimidated fast.
I love when my hair is completely out, but my mom's hair is her curls are tighter, so hers are like
So her
full.
hair looks good when it's fluffed
Yeah,
out.
I like it
Okay.
when it's fully out. I like my mom's full
I
fro.
feel when I wash my hair is big. It feels good, but
You're
people are
intimidated by your hair?
not intimidated, but there's like a, oh, okay. Okay, the hair, like a hair just walked into the room. Um, and I
I don't.
guess it just looks better polished. Whatever.
You look. I mean, you look beautiful. So, what's your? I don't know. What's your astrology? I don't know it. Maybe you told me a while ago.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo.
Virgo and sun and rise. Do you know the moon and rising?
No. Like, how does a person figure out what their moon is, rising is?
I think just through apps online. Like
Yeah,
you can use CoStar. I can do it right now if you want.
you're gonna oh,
Whatever.
like the moon and the sun rising.
Yeah, and what
Uh,
your moon is, and
and
I mean, you can look at your whole chart.
and tell me what the moon rising symbolizes and the sun rising symbolizes.
So the sun is kind of like the main, like how you present. Your rising is the lens through which people see you.
The rising, so that's the moon.
No, the
That's
moon
just,
is how you feel inside.
oh, fun.
The
I
moon,
feel like the sun and my moon would be in complete opposites of each other.
they might be. They
Yeah,
might.
yeah. I'm not gonna do it online just because
Okay.
I don't want people to be like
No. Yeah,
manipulating
yeah,
me on the
yeah, yeah.
sun.
Privacy. It's important. Yeah.
Ah, so we're gonna be closing this out soon. I'm still new at this, so I don't know how to close it out. If I'm being honest, I feel really good about. Thank you so much for sharing your story because I it's just nice. It's nice to hear your journey, and also for me personally, like you were saying how you had these migraines and you were looking for answers and try to how to make yourself feel better. Like I love that. Like I totally relate to that experience. Because I do meet a lot of people that are like, where are the drugs? Like I don't care about. I mean, it sucks that I have diabetes. It sucks that I have high cholesterol. It sucks that I'm overweight. But just give me a drug and let me do it that way. And I'm always like, I do the opposite. I'm like, let me see how many plants I can like smell and sniff and try to heal.
Right, right, right. You're
So a what?
a green witch.
Yeah, and so it's good for me to hear that because you look beautiful. You always have a radiant energy to you, and it's like you've been doing so much work on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, 2 hours ago, I was weeping on the phone with my therapist. So I feel like the work never ends. No, I do feel better. There's always growth. There's always more things you want to do and, next levels. But it's nice to just like feel like, oh, okay, I feel good. I'm in the moment. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
And also, like, there's also the reality that we're humans, right?
Right.
So, because I had a therapy session earlier today too, and she gave me some tips on how to sleep because I haven't been sleeping well. I've been staying up to like 4 o'clock in the morning listening to podcasts. I have a crush on like Theo Vaughn right now. It's ridiculous.
Cool. I gotta look that up.
It's but I've been staying up late and so I didn't get any sleep. And so my therapist gave me a list of like 500 things to do, and they were all like good things. And I was like, it's just so much work. And she's like, yep, like it never ends.
Never
Like
ends.
yeah. But where can you tell people where they can find you on Instagram and on yeah.
They can find me on Instagram at JessicaBrodkin. That's Jessica Jessica, B as in boy, Rodkin. And my website, my work website for now is loveandlightservices.com. And I'm actually doing a cool event that I'm starting in 2 weeks on the full moon. I'm doing a group Reiki and sound baths. So I'm having my friend and colleague is doing Tibetan sound bowls and gongs and all this stuff. And we've been practicing for a couple of months, and now we're making it public. So I'm really excited.
It sounds
Um,
juicy.
it's juicy. It should be a good time. We've been practicing on our friends and family and just together, just jamming. It's like Reiki jazz.
Amazing. So you're innovating as well.
I'm trying.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing, and for having me as your guest. And anyway, I love this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And please follow Jessica because she's amazing. Bye. So